So please take your seats.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this second meeting of the FCC's Work Advisory Committee for Work 27. My name is Kim Baum, and I'm the Vice Chair of the committee. The IWGs have been incredibly busy since our last meeting, and we have 16 preliminary views to consider today. So with that, I'll ask under Agenda Item 2 for approval of the agenda. You can find it in WAC Document 7, and it's also shown on the screen. Are there any comments on the draft agenda? Okay, so we do have, I think, 2 changes that we need to make. Well, one, as Amy Sanders observed, it's the second meeting of the Work Advisory Committee, so we'll make that change. And then I believe under Agenda Item 4, the second NTIA letter is Document 9. Okay, and you've already made that update, Alan? Great. So I think with that, we can consider the agenda for this meeting approved. Moving on to Agenda Item 3, we have approval of the minutes from our first meeting, and those can be found in Document 6, which Alan is displaying here for us. Are there any comments on the minutes from our first meeting in Document 6? Okay, great. We'll consider those approved. Thank you very much. Now, under Agenda Item 4, we will turn to Charles Glass, who I believe is participating online, to give us a report on activities by NTIA on the RCS, and also to introduce 2 sets of preliminary views that NTIA has already shared with the WAC. So Charles, over to you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to all. We have in Document 8 and Document 9, 8 preliminary views, which NTIA
And Charles, if you could pause
over.
for a moment. It's hard for us to hear you.
Okay. Is that any better?
No, you're still very quiet.
I don't know what to do. Is Ms. Sanders in the room?
Okay, now it's a little bit better.
Okay. Okay, so let me try again. So we have Document 8 and Document 9 from NTIA, where we send over 8 preliminary views for consideration by the WAC, and in that case, the informal working groups as appropriate. We are looking forward to reconciliation of these preliminary views. We notice that there are additional preliminary views on your agenda for approval today. We will seek agency advice on those preliminary views and work towards maximizing our reconciliation of the most preliminary views we can for the upcoming PCC2 meeting. And with that very basic introduction, Madam Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Charles. And do you have any additional information about additional preliminary views that might be coming over in the near future?
We do not have any that will be for the September meeting. We will, of course, continue to work on preliminary views. Those that you see that we do not have that you do have, there might be some we feel we need to develop our own preliminary views on, but I do not have a full list at this point that I could say definitively one way or the other about.
Okay, thank you, Charles. We appreciate that report. So now we can move on to Agenda Item 5, and it's the meat of our work today, to look at the documents that we have from the different IWGs. So first, we have Kim Kolb with IWG 1. And Kim, you can give us a status report, and then we'll look for approval of your preliminary view. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So first, it's my first time up here, everybody. So I want to say congrats to everybody at the leadership of the WAC, and I appreciate the opportunity, along with my vice chair or co-chair, Nick Shrout, to lead IWG1. So IWG1, we've met 4 times. We have 2 WRC 27 agenda items. They are on completely different, literally different ends of the spectrum. First we have 1.8, which is some sub-millimeter wave radiolocation, and we have agenda item 1.9, which is high frequency or HF off-route aeronautical use. So we met 4 times. We have looked at the RCS 1.9 preliminary review, and we have some edits due to some good spectrum Samaritans that look to help clarify, and we look to add some mentions of some amateur use in there to fill it out a little bit more. And you'll see that in document 10, and I give that to the WAC for its approval.
Okay, thank you, Kim. So do we have any comments on document 10, the preliminary view on agenda item 1.9? Okay, see none, I think we can consider document 10 approved. Thank you very much, Kim.
Hey, thank you, and good luck with the other IWGs.
Thank you. Okay, next we have IWG2 with Dadaline Meem, our chair of that group. And Dadaline, you'll have a status report for us and then seek approval of your 2 preliminary views.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Dadaline Meem, chair of IWG2, and as Kim said, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to lead this IWG. IWG2 met 4 times to develop preliminary views for agenda items 1.7 and 1.10. We've also addressed these agenda items through email correspondence and offline discussions. We're not yet at the stage of developing recommendations for these agenda items or agenda items 2, 4, 8, and 10, which are also attributed to IWG2. Today we offer for approval IWG2's preliminary views for agenda items 1.7 and 1.10. First is agenda item 1.7, which considers studies on sharing compatibility for the use of IMT in the 4, 7, 8, and 15 gigahertz bands. The PV is in document 11 and presents 2 alternatives for the FCC's consideration. Alternative 1 indicates the U.S.'s support for sharing and compatibility studies called for in the resolution with a view to ensure protection of the services to which the bands are allocated on a primary basis, and the U.S. indicates support for appropriate action at WRC 27. Alternative 2 has the elements of Alternative 1, but adds additional language referencing employment of coexistence mechanisms to safeguard incumbent operations. There were extensive discussions via email and offline meetings, as well as the final IWG2 meeting to discuss these alternative options, and in particular, what the meaning of employing coexistence mechanisms to safeguard incumbent operations means. And in the end, it was agreed to present 2 alternatives. With that description, I present this PV for consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you, Dadaline. So this preliminary view is in document 11, and as Dadaline described, we have 2 views that are being recommended to the FCC. So are there any comments? Okay, please, Scott. Please, yes, for the microphone.
Yeah, we don't have microphones.
But it's okay, you can go to the podium. Thank you, Scott.
Well, thank you. I'm Scott Kotler with Lockheed Martin and a WAC member. As Darlene indicated, we do have 2 views. It wasn't consensus in IWG2. And I would note that agenda item 1.7 is critical to the U.S. aerospace and defense industry to innovate, to meet the needs and demands of existing services, while also exploring innovative opportunities for new wireless services. U.S. leadership on this is appropriate and needed, and including collaboration with U.S. allied incumbents. As Darlene had indicated, Alternative 1 plainly indicates support for ITU studies and appropriate WRC 27 action. U.S. has already begun contributing to these studies. And the phrase appropriate action by itself lacks any clarity to the U.S. objectives. There is no need to send a preliminary view to CTEL that does not provide greater clarity. Alternative 2, on the other hand, is based on the National Spectrum Strategy and the White House 6G principles for its guiding policy on what the U.S. would not support at WRC 27 for IMT. It's not about deployment. It's not as it was introduced. It's those bands for which studies cannot demonstrate coexistence with incumbent operations should be excluded. During IWG2, the wireless industry opposed reliance on the National Spectrum Strategy and the 6G principles, interpreting the coexistence language in Alternative 2 as needing, as we heard, to implement domestic regulatory provisions in other countries in the radio regulations. It's to the contrary of that. Alternative 2 proposes that the U.S. would decide which bands it supports based on its own domestic studies and objectives and policies. Other countries can choose to align with the U.S. or not at the ITU. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I think your additional remarks will certainly be helpful to the FCC in considering these two views and, ultimately how the U.S. will move forward. So thank you for that. Are there any other comments? Yes, please, Andy.
Thank you. Andrew Roy from Aviation Spectrum Resources. I'll keep this short. ASRE supports the comments by Lockheed Martin and supports Alternative View 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Again, I think that'll be helpful to the FCC in deciding how to move forward here. And Kim Kolb, please.
Hey, thank you, Kim Kolb, the alternate member for Boeing. To go with ASRE's comments, keep it short, that we support Lockheed Martin's in this to try and bring productive solutions forward through the U.S. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kim. And we'll be sure that these remarks are reflected in the minutes. Are there any other comments that folks would like to make on document 11? So recognizing the comments that we've received, I'd like to request for approval of document 11 and the two alternative views reflected therein. Okay, seeing no comments, document 11 is approved. So Dottaline, back to you.
Thank you. Next is agenda item 1.10, which considers developing PFD and EIRP limits for inclusion in Article 21 for FSS, MSS, and BSS to protect the fixed and mobile services in the 70-80 gigahertz bands. The PV is in document 12 and indicates the U.S.'s support for studies called for in the resolution and notes that development of the PFD and EIRP limits in Article 21 must ensure the protection of the fixed and mobile services in the 70-80 gigahertz band. With that description, I present this PV for consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you, Dottaline. So are there any comments on document 12 and the preliminary view on agenda item 1.10? Okay, so I would like to consider document 12 approved. Okay, seeing no comments, document 12 is approved. Thank you, Dottaline.
Thank you. I'd like to thank IWG2's Vice Chair, Reza Arifi, and the leaders of the offline discussions, Mike Milinex and Naveed Mohamed, as well as everyone who participated in IWG2's activities, and I look forward to the next round of robust discussions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dottaline. So next, that brings us to IWG3, dealing with FSS and regulatory matters, and I believe we have Alex Epstein, the chair, joining us virtually. Alex,
Hi,
are you
can
there?
you hear me okay?
Yes, you're quite faint.
Is this better?
Yes, a little bit.
Okay, great, and thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, and apologies for not being able to be there in person today. But on behalf of myself and my co-chair, Ryan Henry, thank you. We are very privileged to chair this group. So IWG3 met 4 times. We approved, or we provided to the WAC 5 preliminary views on agenda items dealing with the fixed satellite service, agenda item 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. So with that, I can start with IWG WAC 13 on WRC 27 agenda item 1.1. This preliminary review was approved by the IWG3 and deals with WRC 27 agenda item 1.1 to consider the technical and operational conditions for use of the frequency bands 47.2 to 50.2 and 50.4 to 51.4 and parts thereof by aeronautical and maritime earth station and motion communicating with space stations, and develop regulatory provisions to protect existing preliminary versions, preliminary views. So we did have a few offlines, and thank you to those that organized the offlines, but we did manage to approve a preliminary view that states that the United States supports the sharing and compatibility studies with a view to ensure protection of services to which the frequency bands are allocated on a preliminary basis. So with that short description, I present this document for consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Are there any comments on the preliminary view on agenda item 1.1 and WAC document 13? Okay, see none. Document 13 is approved. So Alex, back to you and your next document.
Great. My next document is WAC 14 on WRC 27 agenda item 1.2. Thank you. This document provides edits on top of the NTIA RCS agenda item 1.2 preliminary review. And agenda item 1.2 considers possible revision of sharing conditions in the frequency bands 13.75 to 14 to allow the use of smaller uplink antenna sizes. There's changes in the background section from the RCS preliminary view, and also some changes to the US view that the United States supports possible revisions of sharing conditions for the frequency bands 13.7 to 14 to allow the use of uplink FSS stations with smaller antenna sizes while providing protections to existing primary services that operate in the band. And with that, I present this document for consideration and approval.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Are there any comments on WAC document 14, the draft preliminary view on agenda item 1.2? Okay, see none. Document 14 is approved. And thank you, Alex. I hope the FCC will find it helpful that we provided edits to the NTIA preliminary view as they work on finalizing the US view. So your next document, Alex.
Yes, document 15 is a draft preliminary view for agenda item 1.3. And agenda item 1.3 considers the use of frequency bands 51.4 to 52.4 gigahertz to enable use by gateway earth stations by non-geostationary satellite systems. The US view in this regard supports studies and development of a regulatory framework to enable the use of this frequency bands by NGSO FSS while ensuring protection of existing primary service. And with that brief description, I present this document for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Are there any comments on the draft preliminary view on agenda item 1.3 and document 15? Okay, see none. Document 15 is approved. And Alex, we're back to you for the next document.
Thank you. The next document is document 16 on WRC 27 agenda item 1.4. Agenda item 1.4 considers a new primary allocation to the fixed satellite service in the frequency band 17.3 to 17.7 and 17.3 to 17.8 in Region 3, and also the development of protection limits between non-geostationary and geostationary satellite systems in Regions 1 and Region 3. The United States supports studies in accordance with the resolution to develop appropriate regulatory provisions for Region 3, as well as provide protection provisions in Region 1 and 3. And this one's a bit of an oddball because there's the Region 2 allocation was provided during the last cycle. So the reason the United States support this item is because an inclusion of an FSS downlink in Region 3 will provide continuous spectrum worldwide for the use of satellite services. So that reasoning is included in the last sentence of the US view. So with this item, I present this document for your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Are there any comments on the draft preliminary view on agenda item 1.4 found in document 16? Okay, then document 16 is approved. And back to you, Alex, for one more. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So document 17 contains the preliminary view for WRC 27 agenda item 1.5. This agenda item is to consider regulatory provisions to limit the unauthorized operations of non-geostationary satellite Earth stations to the service area in accordance with Resolution 14. This item was again the subject of a few offlines, so I think those that were part of the offlines. And the US view essentially indicates that there are existing regulatory provisions that can be utilized to ensure that there are no unauthorized transmissions of non-geostationary satellite systems, and that given these considerations and comprehensive nature in the current regulations, the United States does not see a need for changes in the radio regulations under this agenda item. And with that, I present this document for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Are there any comments on the preliminary view on agenda item 1.5 contained in document 17? Okay, great. I think this was an important one, and certainly a lot of work went into this as well as other agenda items, I know. So document 17 is approved. And thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the IWG3 membership as well as those that led the offline to get all of these preliminary views in order. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So next we turn to IWG4, dealing with the mobile satellite service and space science services, and Damon Ladson. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I noticed that Kim did his presentation with an iPhone. I'll need this, so let's get started. So first of all, I'm happy to report on the work and achievements of IWG4. We considered 9 preliminary views for this cycle. We have consensus on 8. They are agenda items 1.11, 1.13, 1.14, 1.15, 1.16, 1.17, 1.18, and 1.19. We had one more agenda item up for consideration. That was agenda item 1.12, which deals with low data rate MSS. That's going to be tabled for further consideration. So with that, let's start with agenda item 1.1. That's for MSS space-to-space links. It's in document 9. And here, our preliminary view is the standard. We support studies. But also notably, we emphasize that the direction of the new allocations of space-to-space should be in the same direction as the existing MSS allocations, and also that existing regulatory frameworks for the downlink for these space-to-space allocations should remain the same as it is today. So with that brief introduction, I give you document 9, Kim.
Okay, thank you, Damon. And just to clarify, this is the preliminary view on agenda item 1.11, and it's in WAC document 18. So are there any comments on the preliminary view in document 18? Okay, so then document 18 is approved, and we're back to you, Damon, for your next document.
Okay, the next agenda item is 1.13, and it focuses on new MSS allocations for direct connectivity between space stations and IMT user equipment. So for this PV, we highlight that studies should prioritize frequency bands identified for the terrestrial component of IMT while ensuring the protection of incumbent services. And we also underscore that MSS allocation should not claim protection from existing IMT services. So with that, I present, I believe it's document 10 in my notes for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Damon. So are there any comments on the draft preliminary view on agenda item 1.13 found in document 19 and displayed here on the screen? Okay, seeing none, document 19 is approved as well. So Damon, back to you for document 20 on agenda item 1.14.
Okay, and thanks for that, Kim. I'll ignore my document number notes because apparently they're all wrong. Okay, so agenda item 1.14, this is to support new MSS allocations around 2 gigahertz to address spectrum needs for MSS. This PV emphasizes the protection of existing primary services and services in adjacent bands, as well as ensuring compatibility with incumbent services. So with that brief introduction, I give you agenda item 114.
Okay, great. Thank you, Damon. So any comments on this preliminary view on agenda item 1.14 contained in document 20? Okay, so this one is approved as well. Damon, and over to you for document 21.
Okay, document 21, agenda item 115. This deals with, considers new or modified space research allocations for lunar surface and lunar orbit communications. And the PV stresses the need for sharing and compatibility studies to protect the unique environment of the moon and incumbent services. It also supports the development of regulatory procedures for lunar surface stations. And with that, I present document, whatever it was, agenda item 115.
Okay, thank you, Damon. Are there any comments on the preliminary view on agenda item 1.15 contained in document 21? Okay, so document 21 is approved. Goodness, Damon, you still have 4 more. But back to you for document 22.
Okay, so document 22, it's agenda item 116. It deals with the protection of radio quiet zones in Chile and South Africa. But if you read the resolution closely, it also deals with a fairly wide bandwidth where there's a possibility to address protection of radio astronomy in bands where there are no radio astronomy allocations. So for this PV, IWG4 supports studies to protect the radio astronomy services in those 2 radio quiet zones, but it also cautions that we need to look closely as what is meant when you read the resolution of the word recognition, and that we should ensure that whatever actions are taken do not cause additional constraints on NGSO operations, particularly in bands where the radio astronomy might want protection, but where they do not have allocations. So with that, I present agenda item 116 for approval.
Okay, thank you, Damon. Are there any comments on the preliminary view on agenda item 1.16 contained in document 22? Okay, seeing none, document 22 is approved. So back to you for document 23.
Okay, document 23 is agenda item 117, which deals with space weather. And for our preliminary view, we support new primary allocations for space weather in certain frequency bands while ensuring no constraints on incumbent services. And we also emphasize the need for studies on regulatory provisions to accommodate notifications of receive-only sensors. And I'll note that this particular agenda item is based on the agenda item 117 PV that we received from NTIA. So with that, I present it for approval.
Okay, thank you, Damon. And again, hopefully that'll be helpful to the FCC, having edits to the RCS version already. Are there any comments on the draft preliminary view on agenda item 1.17 contained in WAC document 23? Okay, seeing none, document 23 is approved. So Damon, back to you on document 24.
Okay, document 24 is agenda item 119, and it deals with primary allocations for the EESS. And for this PV, IWG4 supports studies for primary allocations to EESS passive in the 4200, 4400 megahertz and 8400, 8500 megahertz bands. We highlight the importance of these bands for sea surface temperature measurements while protecting incumbent services in these and adjacent bands. I will also note that NTIA did submit a PV that we considered for this agenda item. However, our members noted technical concerns with the references provided in the RCS PV on 119 and therefore did not agree with it. So instead, we're endorsing the PV that I just presented, and I present it to you for approval. Thank you.
And Damon, just to clarify, so that was for agenda item 1.19?
Yes.
Okay. So are there any comments on the draft preliminary view on agenda item 1.19, which is found in document 25? Okay, seeing none, document 25 is approved. And then back to the preliminary view on agenda item 1.18. Document 24.
Okay, yes, I skipped that one. Saving the best for last, I guess. So agenda item 1.18 deals with EES passive and radio astronomy protection from unwanted emissions of active services above 76 gigahertz. And we support conducting compatibility studies and revising relevant resolutions based on ITR studies to ensure compatibility without overly burdening incumbent active services. So with that, I give you agenda item 1.18.
Okay, thank you, Damon. Are there any comments on the preliminary view on agenda item 1.18 found in document 24? Okay, seeing none, then document 24 is approved. And thank you very much, Damon. You're the clear winner with a number of preliminary views developed in an incredibly short period of time. So thank you.
Now, and on that note, we had about a week before our last meeting. I think we maybe had 2 PVs, and everyone, and I mean everyone, worked extremely hard to give us 8 out of 9 PVs for this cycle. So I'd like to thank all the coordinators, the hidden coordinators who took on certain jobs, and certainly all of the members who participated. And there were some pretty tough negotiations, but we came to agreement. So thanks to all for that. And finally, I'd like to thank my vice chair, George John, who's been enormously helpful in helping to facilitate our work. So with that, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Certainly a job well done. So that brings us to agenda item 6, future meetings of this group. So we do not have a third meeting scheduled yet, but we expect it to be in the December-January timeframe, in advance of the next CTEL meeting. And that will be confirmed, as we know when the next CTEL meeting will be. And then, as always, you can find an incredible amount of information at the FCC's WARC27 website that you'll find on the agenda. So that brings us to any other business. And please, Andy.
Andrew Roy from Aviation Spectrum Resources. In discussions with the FCC General Counsel on conflict of interest, they have asked me to declare that though I only represent the views of Aviation Spectrum Resources in the committee, I do chair the ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization's Spectrum Panel, and therefore that needs to be declared to the committee and also minuted, please, as well. I was unable to attend the first WAC, so this is the first opportunity I've had to declare it. So, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And my understanding is that we will remember these disclosures and we can reflect them Yes, so even though I know we would all love to hear Brennan's disclosure again, I think we could just reflect them normally as part of the minutes from each of these meetings. But thank you for that. It's certainly very important to disclose that information. So with that, I think we're done with our marathon number of preliminary views. So thank you to everyone, and thank you for all of the hard and collaborative work to get us to this point. So enjoy your August. Thank you very much.